fuck has Doc Rivers done? Oh, he helped the first super team in the NBA win a championship. Ever since then, Doc Rivers has been overrated as fuck. How many other coaches out there have blown 3-1 leads as much as Doc Rivers has? Or just in general, being up in a series and then just royally choking? I think the only worse choke job than any Doc Rivers coach team was when the Rockets missed 27 threes in a row. But fucking Doc Rivers, he helped the Clippers blow 2, not 1, 2 3-1 leads with different superstars. He did it with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, and then he did it with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And granted, he didn't make Paul George fucking shoot a three-pointer that hit the side of the backboard. But he definitely could have taken him out of the game after he did that. Like, I don't care what superstar kind of player you are. LeBron, you hit the side of the backboard? Yo, go take a shit or whatever's going on with you, homie. Because, like, something's not right. It's your boy Eyeso Plays. Typical YouTube shit. Like and subscribe. Love y'all. Let's get back to the video. We're in the trenches, y'all. We're a little over a month away from the NBA season starting. Offseason's pretty much dead. Everyone's been signed. But there's still some shit we can talk about. So today, I'm going to give my predictions for the 2021-2022 NBA season awards. Let's get into it. I'm going to be wrong on a lot of these predictions. The NBA season is so volatile. Through an injury, everything can change. I'm going to start with the one that I'm the most confident in, that I feel might upset some people, but some people might also really like. I think Joel Embiid is going to win MVP this upcoming year. And here's why. So, of course, I'm a Nuggets stan, homer for life. Jokic played great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to detract from any of that. He was very lucky to get that award. There were a lot of injuries that came into play, but he's just not the sexy pick. And I'm sorry, when it comes to MVP, a lot of people prefer the sexy pick. I don't think LeBron's going to win it. He has Westbrook and AD, and I'm sorry, that plays into it. Whether it's fair or not, when you have that much talent around you, it's going to take away from it. And also, LeBron, he's focused on championships now. So I think he's going to be taking a step back. He's going to be chilling in the regular season. As long as the Lakers end up, with a top seed, that's all they really care about. He's not going for any records. Durant, kind of a similar boat. I could see him maybe taking it just because of how dominant he is, and there's so many injuries with the Nets. But again, you have Harden and Kyrie. Harden is someone you're already going to be competing for the MVP vote with. And again, just injuries and health. Even if Durant's not really injured, I'm sure they're going to be cautious because you don't want to lose one of them. And Embiid, he was already, let's be honest, he was probably going to take it over Jokic before he had that injury, and he had to miss quite a few games, and Jokic literally was an Iron Man and didn't miss a single fucking game. And so again, give credit to Jokic for that. But I think Embiid, especially with the predicament now with the Sixers, with Simmons wanting out, and he's not going to play games, but they're not going to trade him until he either plays games or they get a trade they want. So if anything, I think that gives Embiid a chance to shine. Because the Sixers, even without Simmons, they're still a top 4 seed in the East, without a doubt in my mind. So while it's not ideal to not have another all-star out there with you, it's going to help prove his case. Similar to how when Murray went down and Jokic carried the Nuggets, it's going to make him look good. The only player I could really see maybe dethroning him with it is my boy Luka. Just because Luka is just so crazy dominant and amazing. But the hard part about that, and I'm not sure how many of y'all know this, but it's very, very rare for a player to win MVP and his team not be a top 2 in his conference. Jokic was an exception. Again, going back to that whole injuries, and it was a weird season last year. But for the most part, you have to be a top 2 seed in your team. And I'm sorry, unless Porzingis comes back and is playing like a god, that's not going to happen with the Mavs. So unless Luka's averaging like 40 points, 10 assists a game, he's probably not winning MVP just off team success. Whether that's fair or not, I think Luka's a better player than Embiid. But as far as success of the team and stats, I think Embiid's going to win out on that. This next award, I feel like this one is a little bit more of a easier kind of choice, but there's always one that could surprise with it. But it's a Sixth Man of the Year. And before I give my select, the reason why I feel it's one of the easier ones, I feel it's one of those awards that it's way easier to win multiple times over and over. With MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, awards like that, you get voter fatigue. And people, even if there is an obvious choice, they don't want to vote for the same guy, 3 or 4 times. When it comes to Sixth Man, nah, they just care, are you hooping? Like, how many did Jamal Crawford win? Like, over 6, I want to say? So, with that being said, I'm saying it's going to be repeated, and I think Jordan Clarkson's going to win it again. Because here's the thing with Sixth Man. Sixth Man is basically, you are a caliber of player that you could be a starter, but either because of just the structure of the team or how they need it, they have you come off the bench. And you have to be able to accept that ego drop because, it's way different being a starter compared to being off the bench, even if you're the sixth man. And so to have that perfect blend of being that talented of a player, but willing to cut your own ego to be that takes a unique type of person. And once you find that kind of person, it's hard to replicate or better. And Jordan Clarkson, I'm sorry, he could be a starter, I'd say, on over 80% of most teams. And so him coming off the bench, and also real quick, I find it interesting, but it also makes sense. Usually the sixth man, they're the spark plug when it comes to points. It's not necessarily playmaking or defense or rebounds. No, it's who's lighting up the scoreboard, scoring on average over 20 points per game. And I don't see Jordan Clarkson stopping that. His three-point shooting's elite, and he can make some difficult-ass shots. So that's who I'm going with for sixth man. Now next, Defensive Player of the Year. So this one I was a little torn on because, again, voter fatigue. Otherwise, honestly, I'd want to give it to Rudy Gobert again because, I'm sorry, his shot blocking, especially in the regular season, is just so valuable. I think it's hella underrated, and I know we like to rag on him and talk about how he gets taken out in the playoffs. But the regular season still matters. That's how you get to the playoffs. But anyways, the player I think I'm going to go with is Bam Adebayo. And the reason why I'm picking him is he's already been known for his defensive versatility. He's always been a great defender. But now that they've added Kyle Lowry and all these other pieces around, I think that's going to take the load off him on the offensive end. And so he's going to be able to just huckle down. And already the Heat, they're very defensive-minded. They got Jimmy Butler. Kyle Lowry's no slouch on defense. So they're going to help pick up that slack. So he just has to stay focused on that paint and on that help defense. And I think he's going to be indomitable. Like, no one's really going to be able to stop him. I would have also had maybe Simmons in the running because I'm pretty sure he was runner-up last year. But who knows how many games he's even going to play and then on what team. So you can't really count him. I love Jeremy Grant. He was awesome on the Nuggets, but he's on the trash team, the Pistons. And unfortunately, again, that's the thing that comes into all of these awards. I think it's very difficult, other than maybe Rookie of the Year, to win an award on a trash team. That's just the facts at the end of the day, It's something that's unavoidable, that team success plays into it. And while some people might say that's unfair, let me go on a little tangent with that. I think team success really should matter because what's the point of your improvement and how awesome you are? Like, how much of you is just an empty stat guy if your team is fucking playing terrible? And I'm really torn on that because sometimes players, they're playing to the best of their capability and just their teammates aren't filling it out. A lot of people said Devin Booker was an empty stat guy, but then once you got Chris Paul on his team, people realized how great he was. I'm sure we're going to see that with Zach LaVine as well. But at the end of the day, there are still players that you are just putting up stats because the team's trash. For example, going back to my guy Jeremy Grant, who, again, I love. He was averaging, over 20 points per game. He had some crazy scoring outbursts on the Pistons. Yeah, they were awesome. They still lost a shit ton of games, enough to win the first-round draft. So how many of those points really do you want coming from that caliber of guy? So going back to everything I was saying, now that Bam doesn't have to focus on all those other crazy stats. You know, he doesn't have to focus on scoring in the mid-range. You know, he can just focus on getting his putbacks, getting those pick and rolls, you know, setting up. He can focus his energy on the defense and just the culture that the Heat have. I think he's a strong candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. And so with Coach of the Year, how I determine it, it seems to either be a coach who leads his team, you know, to be a number one seed in his conference, or a coach who overextends what his team's expectations were. For example, Tom Thibodeau, he won it last year because the Knicks, they went from being a bottom of the barrel joke of a team to being in the playoffs. And that's highly impressive. And this one you could honestly sway me on, but I'm going to go with Steve Kerr, whether people fuck with that or not, and whether that's a lot of the credit to him. But I think having Klay Thompson back and having these rookies, I think he's going to showcase again, while he's not an overrated coach. Because I feel a lot of people, they kind of felt he was overrated just because he had all of these all-star players. But y'all forget, they had Curry and Thompson and Draymond with Mark Jackson, and they couldn't go all the way. It was when Steve Kerr came in, and yeah, they had additions, and he got Iguodala to come off the bench, but those are all very underrated things. So I could see if the Warriors, you know, end up being a top 4 seed in the West, and to be honest, who knows? It all depends really on Klay Thompson. But if Klay Thompson can come back and be even 80% of the player he was, I think Steve Kerr has a very good, strong running for it. And to follow that up, another one that I'm not super strong on, and I'll admit it's because of my own fault, but is Rookie of the Year. And the reason why I'm not very strong on it is I don't follow a lot of, you know, college players or just in general non-NBA players, even like, you know, the G League or anything like that. I watch the highlights, you know, I keep an ear out, but I'm not watching the full game. And that's kind of pivotal to really deciding. But from initially what I'm seeing, I'm going to go with Jalen Green over Cade Cunningham. And I know Cade Cunningham's the obvious, you know, because he was the consensus first-round pick. He's on the Pistons. But the reason why I think Jalen Green's going to do better is when you look at the Pistons, they're still trash, but they got Jeremy Grant. And I'm sorry, I think he's still going to be the best player on the Pistons next year. Cade Cunningham, a close second. But when you have a player like him, I think he's going to take a little bit of the shine away. And also, I'm sorry, and again, whether this is fair or not, Pistons aren't a sexy team, if you will. And I'm not saying Houston is like super sexy, but they're way more appealing than them. And on top of that, they've already announced, the Rockets that is, that they're not going to be playing John Wall. They're going to be looking for a trade for him. So he's not going to be playing. So other than that, you just got a bunch of young guys. So you got Kevin Porter Jr., you got Christian Wood, who's still relatively young. You got Jalen Green. You have all these young guys who they're just going to be like, do whatever you want. So I think Jalen Green's just going to have free reign to just ball out a little bit more than Cade Cunningham has. I feel like the Pistons, they're going to want to be tanking still a little bit more to get another high draft pick. So I could see him being limited. And I'm calling it now. I think Jalen Green's going to be the upset, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I saved the hardest decision for last, because to be honest, they're all a crapshoot. Let me let y'all know that now. I could be completely wrong on all of these, and I'm not even going to be ashamed, because like I said at the beginning of the video, injuries, you know, crazy shit that happens in the middle of the season, there's so much that could derail and change the narratives for all of this. And while stats are important, they're all narrative-based. But when it comes to most improved, this is the one that's the hardest for me to decide, because the metrics used are so arbitrary. For example, you know, you could have a player who is just in his third year. And that's the other thing I'll say. I don't believe in any sophomores winning it because, like, of course you expect rookies to improve. Unless they do some beyond your expectations improvement, I don't think sophomores should win it. But anyways, there's the whole, oh, did they get a bigger role? So, of course, they're going to have better stats. You know, they have a bigger role. You know, a position opened up. They got to start more. Was it an injury that helped them get into it? Was it that their just play was just so dominant? You know, There's so many things that vary into it. And then also, what was the expectations of them before the season started? Like, for example, the guy I wanted to pick, and again, this is the homer coming down to me, but I realized I honestly couldn't pick, was MPJ. And the reason why I wanted to pick him is with Jamal Murray going down, and he's going to be out at least half the season, if not more. MPJ is going to have to be the number 2 guy behind Jokic. However, I think the thing that's hurting MPJ is he was already in the running. I think he finished, like 3rd? He was at least in the top 5 for most improved last year. So his expectations are already pretty high. So unless he goes even beyond those, I don't know if you can go from being in the running one year to... It's not an award that you can come in 2nd place one year and then win it the next year. Because at that point, you're already established as a better player. When it comes to most improved, you're only winning that award once. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think it ever will happen that a player wins it one year and then wins it another. Unless you're just taking astronomical, crazy, beyond comprehension leaps. So I can't say MPJ would win it. So the guy who I think is going to win it, OG Anunoby on the Toronto Raptors. And I'm happy that he's going to have this role, because the thing that happened is the Raptors, they traded Kyle Lowry. They're clearly going with the youth movement. You know, they drafted Scotty Barnes. They're in like a semi-rebuild. They're not like totally tanking, but they're focusing on the young guys. And Anunoby's already been highly, highly underrated. And real quick, fun fact, I got to go on a rant about Anunoby, because he should have been a fucking Nugget. So back in the year he was drafted, the Nuggets, we were prime. We needed a small forward. We needed a defensive-minded guy. He seemed like the perfect fit. The Nuggets, we had the 13th draft pick. You know what we did? We drafted Donovan Mitchell, who, again, we could have also really used. Traded him to Utah for another draft pick and, like, other considerations. Utah got a fucking all-star, a guy who almost fucking killed us if Murray didn't go off, but that's a whole other story. And then we traded back in the draft. The Raptors were right before us, and they drafted Anunoby when we could have fucking had him several picks before. Anunoby, he's just that perfect 3-and-D kind of guy. Like, he can defend 1 through 4. He can knock down an open 3-point shot. He doesn't need a lot of touches. But here's the thing. Now that he's on the Raptors, they traded Lowry. He's probably going to get a lot more touches. I could see his scoring going up. As long as his defense stays good and he could average over 20 points per game, I don't see why he shouldn't win it. And I'm so mad because he should have been a fucking Nugget. Because you know who ended up getting that draft? Trey Lyles. Yeah. Do you know who he is? Yeah, I'm sure you don't. Because we ended up trading him for just bullshit because he was nothing for us. And I can't hate on the Nuggets too much because, you know, we landed with Murray. We landed with Jokic. We're phenomenal with our draft picks. We technically drafted both Mitchell and Gobert. So you're welcome, Utah. Denver pretty much drafted your all-stars, but we just had to trade some away so we could have a rival. At least that's my theory. I don't know. I'm in this video as a salty Nuggets fan. I love y'all. Peace out. Those are my predictions. It. Social justice champion Carmelo Anthony? What the fuck did Carmelo Anthony do?